Hey, hey!
Hey guys,
How is everybody?
welcome back.
We're back for transparent tasting, and again, if it's a Tuesday for you, Tuesdays, you get the alliteration. So,
Tasting
yeah,
Tuesdays.
yeah, for sure. So, this is a fun one for me. I
Yeah.
don't know for you how you feel about this beer.
Oh, it's great.
This is one of my favorites. It's kind of nostalgic for me because this is the first barrel aged beer that we did
Yeah.
at Transparent as
Yeah.
well too. So this was, not this specific one, but this beer, this style of beer is the first one we did barrel age, which huge experimentation, trying to figure out
Yeah.
barrel aging process and what we need to do, the volumes that we get on the back end of it, everything. It was just a whole ordeal, but really exciting.
What was your experience before?
So,
doing this barrel aging?
I'd done a little bit. So shout out to Ben Mills at Fossil Cove. He's the one that really introduced me to the barrel aging stuff and kind of taught me, and I learned a lot from him about it. But even then, we kind of dove into it with them very late in my time at Fossil Cove. So I only got to be around for, transferring to barrels on a couple of occasions. But the nice thing was, at that time, I was super, super curious, just trying to absorb as much knowledge as I could.
Yeah.
So I was bending Ben's ear about everything I can. And for all of you, if you make it down to Fayetteville, Arkansas, go to Fossil Cove Brewing Company.
Good brewery.
Awesome place.
Yeah.
Great atmosphere as well too, and they're crushing it. I mean, they're the level that they're out now compared to where they were when I was with them at 2014, 2015 was
Yeah.
just completely different. So definitely go check them out. But we haven't even said the name of this. So this is
Yeah.
What Barrels?
Yeah.
Barrel aged barley wine.
23.
23. So this is now the third iteration that we've done. It's been fun, and I feel like, should I dive into the story of why it's called What Barrels?
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
people probably don't know.
Yeah. So there is actually a story behind the name. So when we first opened, one of the first questions I'd get out of anybody walking through the front door is, "Hey, when are you guys going to start barrel aging? I don't, we don't see any barrels. When are you guys going to start barrel aging?" And me being the person that I am, I got frustrated with it because why are you asking about stuff that we don't have? Maybe you should ask about what we do have. So when I brewed this and I put it into barrels, we put the barrels in a very prominent position back in the brewery. So if you haven't been into the brewery, we've got big glass windows that look back into the brewing space. And every time somebody would come in, they would say, "Hey, what are you guys doing in the barrels?" And so I got everybody, and I have to give great credit to my staff because everybody stuck with this. Their response was, "What barrels?" And all of the customers coming in thought it was just them being a smart ass and asking, just putting a question with a question. And we had some Mud Club members that were angry enough that they almost walked out of the place because we wouldn't give them information on what's happening. But the greatest, the payoff was the actual announcement on Facebook, like, "Hey, you guys have been asking us about this for the last 6 months. We'd like to introduce you to What Barrels Barrel Aged Barley Wine."
Yeah.
So if you ask some of our OG customers about What Barrels, they're gonna crack a grin and then dive into a story about how they got angry because nobody
Yeah.
gave them information on the barrels. So anyway, so that's.
Clever name.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Not everybody thought it was funny, but I thought it was funny. So anyways, the name stuck, and we're now on our third iteration. So this has been a fun one because we've done some different barrels
Yeah.
this year. So the last 2 years were Stranahans, which easy to get a hold of. Probably the cheapest barrel that I could find on the market as well. But great whiskey too. And the Stranahan's barrels create a great character on beer. We've done a few different barrel age with them. But we did Knob Creek
yeah.
this year, which the fun story time here since we're just telling stories. I let these Knob Creek barrels go a little too long without putting beer into them, and the moment I put the beer into it, they were leaking everywhere. And I had 1 brick of paraffin wax to seal this up. I used the whole damn brick on these barrels to get them to stop leaking. So it's been fun. So you've had all 3, right?
Yeah, I've had all 3.
What's your opinion on this one? And we'll dive into the tasting notes here shortly. But this one compared to the other 2.
To me, this one was smoother. At least, as most barley wines, this one has a lot of character on the nose. Mm-hmm. You get dark fruit. You kind of get that boozy from the barrel.
Right.
You get, molasses. You know, you're getting all those things, and then when you taste it, it's just liquid goodness. I mean, let's keep it real.
Maybe we need to rename this. Just liquid goodness.
I mean,
barrel-aged barley
it's
wine.
it's like you know, it's just got a lot of character.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many ways. If you have to write down the things that you know you taste or you know smell in this beer, it'd be a long list of things.
Yeah.
It's very not complicated, but complex. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And it's smooth for a 9.5%.
Yeah. That's the scary part is that
Yeah.
at 9.5, it drinks like 7, 8, and you can get yourself in trouble with it for sure. So as Nigel said, this is American barley wine. So again, we're going to talk about BJCP in every single one of these videos. I'm a firm believer in because they just set the standard for what beer styles are. And it's great to compare when you're tasting to what those beers are supposed to be, not necessarily just to your palate. Because you don't always like everything, right? I'm not a big Belgian beer fan, but it's cool to have a set of guidelines to compare it to, and I can go, okay,
Absolutely.
cool. I may not like the Belgian, but hey, this is hitting everything down this list. So for this beer, American barley wine is 22C under BJCP. So again, go download the app, go to their website, Beer Judge Certification Program. It's bjcp.com. But this is barrel aged. So it's a weird thing whenever you barrel age beers, it becomes a different class from the original class. So this would technically actually be a 33B, which is a specialty wood aged beer. And that there's 33A is a wood aged, and then 33B is specialty. And I think this hits specialty because it was a whiskey barrel.
Yeah.
You know, if it was just like oak staves or something like that, then we'd be a 33A, just the wood age. But anyways, I'm getting pedantic at this point. So
that's a big word. I mean, here we are.
You know, it's us beer nerds. If you let us run down a rabbit hole, we're just going to go all the way down that rabbit hole until somebody's like, hey, rein it back in, bring it back. Let's
Any
get back to
particular
reality.
reason why you want to do a barrel-aged barley wine?
You know, I don't know. I just barley. I love barley wines. Because they are such a complex beer in and of themselves. It's a high ABV, high IBU, a lot of stuff going on. And as much as you know, most of those big flavorful beers, you can hide stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to execute a barley wine personally. Because there's a lot of different variables that go into it between the high gravities. You don't want it to finish out too sweet at the back end of it.
Yeah.
You don't want, but then you don't also have to ferment it properly so that you don't get a lot of fusel alcohols out of it. So there's a lot of complexity going on in a barley wine. And you know, for me, I guess maybe I just wanted to flex my brewing muscles a little bit and try to do something that maybe not everybody can do or has tried to do.
Because
So
it's not a style you see a lot.
no, you don't. You really don't.
You see barley wines,
which
but-
is interesting because this is like one of the original, you know, especially like the American. You know, if you talk like English barley wines and stuff, that's what they were shipping overseas,
Right?
Because it's high ABV, high IBU. It stood up well for the travel across the seas, and made it really easy to get that to its destination without any flaws or minimal flaws,
whatever,
right? Yeah. So you know, when we settled America, this is one of the first things that they were brewing because they just knew the style and it could last for a very long time. So yeah, it's just kind of nostalgic, I guess.
What about the term barley wine? That's confusing for a lot of people.
Right.
You know, it's not a wine.
Right. So yeah, and I'm not a super expert on this, but my assumption is because it's just such a high ABV beer that they've kind of dubbed it a wine just because of the alcohol classification. Which here let's look up because I didn't actually look up the ABVs prior to this. So for American barley wine, it is 8 to 12% ABV as the BJCPs.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're getting on that 12 side, you're definitely in the wine state, right?
Yeah.
So your sugar factor is from barley rather than grapes. So there we go, barley wine.
There you go.
Which is easy.
The more you know.
Thinking meme, you know, or something like that. So. So this one's fun for me. This is our first barrel aged beer, and this is an anticipated release. People get really excited for this every year. So this is fun. So just kind of talking about our brew. So this is majority pale malt. We do a little bit of Victory, so it's like 436 pounds of pale, 30 pounds of victory. And yeah, I'm cheating. There's a piece of paper over here that I'm looking at. And 15 pounds of caramel 120. So pretty basic malt base, but the difference here is I boil this for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So this thing just sits in that boil kettle and just goes and goes and goes. And there's Maillard reactions. So when you cook a steak, you get caramelization, right? So Maillard reactions utilize nitrogen in the process as well, and that's where some of this flavor and color develops. So whenever I go, obviously the barrels contributed, but whenever we go to the boil, it's a very light red, I would say, when it goes to the boil, and by the time it comes out, it's really moved to that amber, moving to brown color coming out of the boil. So it's kind of fun how many different areas you can develop and create flavor, and it's not just ingredients, it's process wise as well.
Is the long boil, is that pushing up that ABV? Is that...
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we go into the boil for you home brewers that know gravities. I go into the boil at 1079, and then this comes out of the boil at 1.1. So it's absolutely driving up. Normally you'll see about 0.005 of a point to 1/100th of a point increase through a boil. And this one we see 2/200ths of a point increase.
How much do you lose when you boil that long?
A lot. Usually it's about 7 gallons an hour. So we're probably, I'd say after 3 hours, we're probably pushing about a barrel off. Our final, from a 5.5 barrel brew, our final yield was 3 barrels this year. And that's boil off, evaporation in the barrels, everything that happens throughout that process. So it's a major loss. Hence the price for these beers, not to mention materials and everything going into it. Yeah. So fun fact, it's a triple pitch of yeast to make this thing ferment out, which we use San Diego Super. It's just a super high tolerant alcohol strain. Triple pitch of yeast. It's our average beer is about 250 to 300 pounds of grain. We're using almost 500 pounds of grain.
Wow.
Everything about this is just big.
Yeah.
From start to finish, it's just big. So, speaking of, why don't we dive into it?
Yeah.
I know you. I saw you take a drink. I'm just again running down the rabbit hole. So you got to rein me in sometimes, and we'll get back to what we're doing.
And the fun thing about a beer like this is, when it warms up, it starts to change.
Yeah, for sure.
Even in the last, 7 minutes we've been doing this, 10 minutes, it's that third sip is different than the first sip.
Almost totally different than the first sip. Yeah, for sure. And that's one of my favorite things to do with these. And we still have cans on right now. So when this releases, we still have cans available. But I love to crack a 16-ounce can, pour it at 7 p.m., and then just sip until 10 p.m. And just taste the changes in the first hour, second hour, third. And even just like the oxygen pickup throughout that 3-hour period, creates a different flavor and aroma and all of that. So these are fun ones to really experiment with and try different things and all of that. So
like I said, it's a lot of fruitiness. You get some of the booziness on the end. It's just a complex beer.
Yeah, and even from far away, there's some red licorice on it. And you were talking about earlier today the molasses and so many different flavors. And then you've got the bourbon character, the wood character, vanilla from the barrels itself, and there's just so many layers on this. It's
if you like whiskey, it's just it reminds your brain of whiskey, but you're not drinking whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because as far as the barrels go, it's imparting some of that flavor, but it's not impacting alcohol. It's just.
No, your major alcohol impact in the barrels is actually from evaporation, right? So there's in whiskey they call it the angel shit, right? That's the water evaporating off, and then the alcohol stays in. So there's a little bit of a concentration factor as far as the alcohol percentages, but with a 6-month barrel age like we do, you're only talking 0.1%, maybe 0.2%.
Yeah.
Now, if we were talking about like Irrational that was in for 17 months, now we're getting a little bit more concentration going because we're in for that extended period, maybe 0.5% up to 0.75. But the only real alcohol bump that you get is just because of the water evaporating off out of this whole process. So I got not to cut you off. The first time I've actually gotten this, a little bit of cinnamon too, and I think it's kind of a combination of everything going in, but like a touch of cinnamon on the nose.
So as far as the 3 versions, what's been your favorite?
I've liked all of them, but I've liked them all for very different reasons. Yeah. We had fun. So anniversary party, we had the 22 and 23 next to each other, and that was a blast to put those next to each other and
totally
sit there
different
and taste.
beers.
Yeah, I mean I think Knob Creek uses a heavier char on their barrels. So this 23 has more roasted character. I think more oak character than what the 22 and 21 had. But the Stranahan's barrels, I think, brought more bourbon forward.
Right.
And then you got more malts. So I think like 22 and 21 were more fruity from the malt base, you know, plums and pears and red licorice and, you know, kind of notes like that, which, and then the bourbon character, whereas this one's a lot more roasted, oak, vanilla, you know, those deeper, richer kind of notes to me. So it's been, like I said, they've all been very good for very different reasons. The one thing that I've been very happy with is just the drinkability at 9.5% through all three of them. Every year it's just been not necessarily crushable, but you can get yourself in trouble with how smooth these are for 9.5.
I mean, that's why we serve it in 4.5 ounces.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
Because a few of these, and I think I drank a can by myself one time, but I did kind of do what you did over a couple of hours. You know what I'm saying? Because I must have shared it. There's no way I could drink the whole damn can because,
it's,
as much as I love it, one glass of this, 8-ounce glass, you're good to go.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, palate fatigue is real at the end of one of these beers. There's just so much complexity and so much going on that you're almost mentally fucking worn out by the end of it.
But it's so damn good, though.
It is. It is. You're just trying to analyze and pick up all the notes and everything. And, you know, flavor-wise, I just taking that drink there, that char from the barrel and the oak, it just comes through so strong.
Yeah.
It's such a smooth and a great accent to the vanilla that they hit and the caramels and the molasses and, you know, those fruit notes that you get. It's just, it's a great beer. I always feel bad, you know, talking about how good this beer is because it feels like I'm just tooting my own horn a little bit here, but it's a fun one. I look forward to it every year, and you know, staring at those barrels for 6 months, just going like, what are you going to be this year? What are you going to be? is a blast.
So what's the future of your barrel aging? There's a couple of barrels in front of us.
Yeah.
About those?
We're staring at them. So so we finally shout out to local distiller Jay Rieger. Got in contact with the lead distiller there, so got kind of a hookup on the local barrels, which is great. I've been wanting to work with local companies since we started, and sometimes it's hard to just, you know, get the foot through the door and get that relationship started. But we've got 4 barrels in front of us right now. One of them is going to make a lot of people happy because this is going to be a reference to the second beer that we barrel aged. Not a reference, but a throwback.
Right.
So we've got Tip and Stout sitting in Rieger barrels. Some people, like I said, I think Chad, one of our Mug Club members, he still has a crowler of it.
Oh, wow.
And that was filled late or like early 21 or something like that.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, still got a crowler of barrel aged Tip and Stout. And then the other 2 are a sweet stout. So we'll see how those come out. This is a new recipe. Going to experiment with it. You know, we'll see how the flavor wise where it's at, and you know, who knows? It could be a long road. That Irrational, I don't know if you remember that. I was ready to dump Irrational.
I was like, don't dump it.
Yeah, we decided to sit on it, and I'm really happy that we did because that turned out
that was a great beer.
Extremely well. So and you know, I'll brew another round of What barrels in the next couple of months as well, and we're gonna hit some J Rieger barrels this year with that. And then, you know, I've got some ideas too. I'd like to do some wine barrels, maybe with some Weebit. I think Weebit on a white wine barrel would be really tasty.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know, and just kind of play with it. You know, now that we've got a bit more people coming into the tap room, a bit more cash flow, makes it a little easier to experiment and have fun. So.
Well done, man. This is a great beer.
Hey, appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Hey, you guys come in and get, we got some cans left.
Cans are left and definitely some drafts.
Yep, it's on tap, so come get some. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.